Whoa. I feel like it's zoomed in. I'm like unusually close. It's hard to tell. Oh, there we go. Make the shot a little wider. What's up, everybody? Just got done with a very interesting conversation with one Paulsego. Talked about the horrible, racist, evil rainbow gathering. Talked about what else did we talk about? Oh, we talked about how stupid transphobes are. That was something we talked about. Hey, what's up, Lantern Gardener? I remember you. Hey, Phoebe, Mama D is back. What's up, Destiny? Yeah, I just got off of a really interesting stream, like I said, and coming back for more. So yeah, it's 1:10 now, so at 2:10 we'll switch over to members only, of course. Make sure you're a member by that time to ensure that you can continue chatting in the live chat. And if you don't want to, you'll still be able to watch. But yeah, how you been, Destiny? How you been? Remember to smack that like button like a Christian, yes, yeah, like a Christian groomer taking a shit, yeah. Or talking shit, yeah. Well, taking a shit, talking shit, what's the real difference? Who's counting anyway? I'm broke, Phoebe. If I'm watching you a month from now, I'll buy a membership. Hey, that's fine. I appreciate the vote of confidence, nonetheless. The kitty has found a lid. I'm not going to let her play with it, though, because I don't want it to end up somewhere where I can't find it. Yes, I know. Please make me a mod so I can rid you. Well, no, that's the thing. I like having them around because they provide a lot of useful comment. Like they provide a lot of useful like counter commentary that I can use to build my own responses off of. So that like they're content fodder. Engagement is queen, exactly. I won't time you out for talking shit. Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Best trans streamer? Thanks. Although it does feel a little weird to be tokenized. I don't know. On the one hand, it's great to be anyone's favorite anything. On the other hand, it's a little bit weird to be anyone's favorite trans anything, It's a complicated emotion. It's a complicated emotional response. Dude, I did something that I haven't done in years, but I got sick of this thing on my face, and I was like, I'm getting rid of this. Whatever I have to do to get rid of this, I'm doing it. So, I bought some, like, of that medicated acne wash for your face or whatever it's called. I think I got a good brand, too, because it's one I see in a lot of people's, like, bathrooms and their personal hygiene kit and stuff. And I also got some pimple pads. And I think those will both help this thing. Hey, Diva, what's up, Nancy Down? What the fuck? Nancy Down syndrome? Well, maybe you're like a person that's trying to raise awareness. I guess I shouldn't laugh. Tea tree oil? Everybody gives me these weird homeopathic remedies, and it's just like, oh, well, I've tried some of these, I've not tried others, and tea tree is one of the ones I've not tried, but also, I'll try it if this doesn't work. But I feel like this might work, because I haven't tried it before. Personal hygiene, brush your teeth, gang. I brush my teeth every day. Sorry that I, like most normal human beings, have a little bit of tooth yellowing that comes from drinking coffee and smoking, but it's actually a pretty normal trait that you find in a lot of people that haven't had access to regular dental care throughout their lives. Witch hazel, tea tree oil. You guys are definitely detecting the hippie in me, I'll give you that much. I'm agnostic, but thank God for coffee. Oh, okay. Now I get it. I was like, what? What does God have to... What? Wait, what? Hold on. I was like, what does coffee have to do with you being agnostic? And then I realized you were obviously talking about the oh my god thing. Yeah, I never qualify myself when I say stuff like that. I just say it because fuck it. People are going to misunderstand if they want to. In my country, you would live 5 minute max, and it will be very unpleasant 5 minutes. Yeah, what country are you from? Fucking Russia? Sorry if I'm not exactly jealous of Russia. Yeah, sorry. No, not exactly. Outside of Russia, outside of like, yeah, maybe you're from Saudi Arabia or one of the like countries that's really oppressive to trans people in the Middle East. I don't know. But outside of those places, I can't really think of that many places where a trans person would be killed merely for the act of being trans. At any higher rate, or at least at so higher a rate than the United States, that it would be worth noting. I'm gonna have to turn on the stuff. I'm gonna have to turn on at least subscribers only mode so that we can actually hear, or I'm sorry, so that we can actually see what's going on in the chat. Because right now it's going by way too fast for me to keep an eye on it. There we go. That should make things a little bit easier. Can you play the guitar in the back? Sure, I can. Although I typically don't unless the guitar goal is met or we get to the members only section, which will happen at 2:10 CST. So that'll be in roughly 53 minutes. We will be switching over to members only mode, and you'll still be able to watch if you're not a member, but you will have to be a member to chat in the live chat. So you can either send $20 on Cash App, which you can find in the description. You can find that by long pressing the video or by going up to the upper three dots. You can either send 20 on Cash App, and I will play you guys 2 or 3 songs on the guitar, sometimes even more, or you can hang around in the members only section. So were the Chuds owned, Phoebe? I think the Chuds were indeed owned. Says roughly while giving exact time. Love it. Well, you know me. Also, Joey, I saw a comment you made on one of my posts, and since you're here anyway, we will adjudicate it right now. So, yeah, so you made a comment on my post where I said, free speech is officially dead, the First Amendment doesn't matter anymore, and I quoted, or I linked an AP News article. You said, free speech isn't shooting the officer in the neck, anyone involved in that directly should be sentenced, but anyone else should be clear regardless of what's said. And I wonder if you made that comment without reading the article, because I don't have any problem, I don't think anyone would have a problem with someone who shoots anybody in the neck getting jail time unless it was a clear case of self-defense, which I do believe you can do self-defense against a police officer in theory. It's been shown in U.S. Supreme Court before that in certain instances, you know, like you can, like there could be an instance where a police officer is like abusing their power sufficiently to warrant some kind of deadly force, or they catch someone unawares who doesn't realize what's going on, etc. If it wasn't self-defense, then obviously they need to go to prison. But the problem I have is what I read in this article. So, I'm going to read the article out loud. This is from AP News. And the headline is, 8 convicted in Texas Immigration Center shooting and protest. So, shooting and protest are sentenced to decades in prison. So this is from Fort Worth, Texas. A former U.S. Marine reservist and 7 others were sentenced Tuesday to decades in prison over a shooting last year that wounded a police officer during a demonstration at a Texas immigration detention center. Prosecutors called the crime an act of terrorism and said the 8 were linked to the leftist militant group Antifa. There is no such thing as a leftist militant group called Antifa. And for there to be a group, you have to have a leader. It's the same reason the Rainbow Family of Living Light is maybe very loosely described as a group, but is better described as a grouping or a movement or an idea, because it's something that you can subscribe to on its own by itself without necessarily invoking everything else, you know? But yeah, reading further. The defendant's attorneys denied any Antifa ties, and family members expressed shock and anger over the stiff sentences. Benjamin Song, the Marine reservist who was convicted of opening fire during the July 4th demonstration outside the Prairieland Detention Center near Dallas, was sentenced to 100 years in prison, the maximum punishment. The 7 others sentenced in Fort Worth courtrooms received prison terms ranging from 30 to 70 years. "I'm livid," said Lydia Koza, whose wife, Autumn Hill, was sentenced to 50 years in prison. "The government wants to take her entire life away because she attended a protest. Nobody died." U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor, one of the 2 judges overseeing the proceedings, said what happened wasn't a protest but an assault on democracy. All but one of the 8 defendants sentenced Tuesday were convicted on terrorism charges. The need to deter this type of conduct is high, O'Connor said. The case drew attention beyond Texas as critics warned it could have wide-ranging impact on protests and First Amendment free speech rights. The Justice Department called it the first sentencing of defendants affiliated with Antifa after President Donald Trump last fall signed an executive order designated it as a domestic terrorist organization. So this is basically the first prosecution that is being done under the auspices of NSPM 7. Prosecutors link protesters to Antifa. Trump issued the order even though there is no domestic equivalent to the State Department's list of foreign terror organizations. Antifa is not a single organization, but rather an umbrella term for far-left militant groups that confront or resist neo-Nazis and white supremacists at demonstrations. That's actually a pretty accurate fucking definition that the AP just gave. The sentences handed down today make clear that Antifa terrorists who attack law enforcement and federal facilities will face swift and compromising justice, said Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche in a statement. Fucking piece of shit. Prosecutors told jurors during the trial that the group's actions, including bringing firearms, first aid kits, and wearing body armor, were signals of nefarious intent. That is the most bogus argument I've ever heard. In the United States, you are allowed to carry a firearm. You're allowed to own a gun. You're allowed to carry a gun. You're allowed to wield a gun in self-defense. The mere act of carrying a gun has been determined not to be nefarious in the Supreme Court a number of fucking times. A number of fucking times. Like, literally. The mere idea that just having a gun on you necessarily signals in fucking malicious intent, it's a it's a Second Amendment thing. You can't use that as the fucking basis of something. Unless they are doing it in fucking clear prostration of the law or something. Or in clear opposition to some well laid out law. But I very seriously doubt that's what was going on. You know, it's fucking Texas. I'm pretty sure Texas is a constitutional carry state. So I'm pretty sure if you open carry down in Texas, you don't need a fucking permit. Anyway, first aid kits and body armor are also not signs of malicious intent. You can have a first aid kit and be a medic. You can have a first aid kit and be a soldier. You can be a first aid kit and be a concerned soccer mom that wants to make sure that you can bandage any boo-boos that happened at the park. Body armor, I mean, hell, sometimes I think about wearing some body armor if I had it around, just fucking with how fucking crazy people are getting these days. Can you really blame them going to a protest with a bunch of fucking amped up, roided up ICE agents? No. I do not agree with the prosecution's argument in this case. Attorneys for the defendants have said there was no planned ambush, and the protesters who brought firearms only did so for their own protection, and that is, by the way, allowed by the Second Amendment. They argued, which, by the way, I'm in favor of. I'm a leftist. I'm not a Democrat. They argued the gathering was planned as a late-night demonstration with fireworks to show support for immigrants being held at Prairieland before gunshots broke out. Makes total sense to me. Prosecutors have said Song had yelled, "Get to the rifles," and opened fire, striking a police officer who just pulled up to the center. I mean, I would love to see their evidence for that. Some defendants said they weren't part of the planning, so let's go through these. This is the part that really pissed me off. This is where I knew I had to link the article on my own page. Philip Hayes, Song's attorney, rejected characterizations that the protesters were extremists and said his client will appeal the 100-year sentence.
This is a bunch of kids and young adults who have a really big heart and really wanted their voice to be heard, Hayes said. It was never intended that anybody get hurt. It was never intended that any shots would be fired. Prosecutor Frank Gatto urged the judge to impose stiff penalties. People with that kind of extremist beliefs need extra time in prison, Gatto said. They believe violence is justified. Literally, a prosecutor for the state justifying the imposition of long-term state violence and acting like the problem is the violence. Like, motherfucker, you are a fucking participant in the world's largest machine of violence. You are an enactor of the world's largest machine of violence. Defendants and their family members pleaded for leniency. Autumn Hill said the gathering seemed more like a party to me than anything else, and that she and others who participated didn't expect or want any violence or destruction of property to occur. Hill's attorney, Cody Kofer, told the judge that there was no evidence she had a gun, nor that she believed in violence to achieve change. So I'm going to repeat that again. Hill's attorney, Cody Kofer, told the judge that there was no evidence she had a gun, nor that she believed in violence to achieve change. He said that after fireworks were set off, she was so conscientious that she made sure to pick up the trash left behind before leaving. Chris Tolbert, defendant Savannah Batten's attorney, has said that his client didn't bring a firearm, spray paint, or fireworks to the center, nor did she participate in the planning of the demonstration. Hill and Batten both received 50-year sentences. Hill and Batten both received 50-year sentences. Once again, Hill, there was no evidence she had a gun, nor that she believed in violence to achieve change. She picked up the garbage left after the fireworks were set off because she was so conscientious about her participation and doing so ethically. And Savannah Batten didn't bring a firearm, didn't bring spray paint, didn't bring fireworks, didn't bring shit, basically. Didn't do a goddamn thing, and didn't participate in the planning of the demonstration. 50 fucking years. 50 years in prison. 50 fucking years. That's insane. That is directly, that is a direct violation of the freedom of assembly and the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. Another defendant, Daniel Sanchez Estrada, was not in Prairieland the night of the shooting or involved in the planning, his attorney Christopher Weinbell said. Sanchez Estrada, who is married to another of the defendants, was convicted only on charges of concealing documents. Weinbell said his client just moved a box of his own belongings of artwork, poetry, journals, and zines after the shooting. Nothing in the box was illegal, Weinbell said. Sanchez Estrada was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Wasn't involved in the demonstration at all. Wasn't in the fucking town the night of the shooting. Is getting prosecuted for moving documents that were not illegal to have and that were not relevant to the case. 30 fucking years. This is the most fascistic administration to ever rule in modern American history, and possibly in American history broadly. Might only be exceeded by the Andrew Jackson presidency. I don't know, the Trail of Tears is one of the only worst examples of corruption and mismanagement and misapplication of justice. That's the only thing I can think goes as far as this. Still worse. Andrew Jackson. But Trump is literally creating a society in which people can be locked up merely for thinking the wrong thing, being married to a person who thinks the wrong thing, having the wrong kind of documents and moving them at the wrong time. We're literally being prosecuted for wrongthink. And the fact that so many people don't seem to care and want to make excuses for it kind of pisses me off. So, I don't know if Joey's still here, but Joey, I hope your take was more, charitable than what I'm going to be getting out of most of the conservatives, which is just, lock them all up. Protesting shouldn't even be legal. Hopefully you understand that there is one person in that entire exchange who deserved to go to prison, right?
Opinions are not always right. That's why we have a dialectic. Is your goal primarily to change people's minds or to make money? I'm sure you're trying to do both, but if you could only choose one to be effective at, which would you choose? Changing people's minds, obviously. Even if I was, like, selfish as fuck, that would make more sense. Like, if I could change more people's minds, I'm a labor leftist that believes in the uprising of the human race beyond shit like poverty and destitution. So, you know, if I was making barely enough to pay my bills, but convincing tons of people, then eventually it wouldn't really matter that much that I was only making just enough to pay my bills. Eventually my bills would become more affordable, or be um, uh, amortize the taxes. Well, but yeah, OG Sloan, why would I care? Like, I'm an open trans woman. I've got a pride flag behind me. Why am I going to care about someone calling me gay? I've been called worse by better people. It's not about wanting to change minds, it's just that you need to change minds to help society. Exactly. If you want to make your society better, and I genuinely do, a big part of that is changing minds. And that is why I try to talk to people the way I do. I try to energy match. I try to inform people when I notice big gaps in their knowledge. Talk about interesting examples people don't often know about, because I value you guys as human beings, not as my audience, but as like human beings, because before you were my audience, you were human beings that were just doing your own thing, and now you're here, you're listening to me, and I want you to know that there are people that want to see the betterment of us all, that want to see things be made more equitable across society, and that if we work together for those goals, they become a lot more achievable. What's your opinion on Justin Timberlake winning the Super Bowl MVP? I don't fucking care. I don't care. I do not give a shit about sports, to be honest with you. No, I do not believe in Jesus. There are tons of people on the right that actively want to stop protesting. Whenever you hear someone on the right characterizing something as, oh, nobody ever does, or this is a thing only, you know, that is always bullshit. Ugh, I hate horseflies. I don't really have any good way to fucking kill it, though. I wish I had a whip. I need a whip or a salt gun. Is there a bug in your room? Well, yeah, it's not my room. It's a fucking outbuilding. But because one of the screens has kind of a hole in it, yeah, a bug has made its way in here. A horsefly, to be exact. And horseflies are fucked. If one of those things lands on you and decides to bite, they, oh boy, do they hurt. And unlike a mosquito, where, like, if you notice the bite, maybe it hurts at first and then it doesn't really hurt for a while and then it itches. Dude, a horsefly bite will not only itch, but it hurts when they make the incision, it hurts when they add the anticoagulant, and then it hurts more when it starts to heal up and start to just itch. Awful things. Disgusting creatures. My cat seems to be on the case, though. Phoebe's job is to be interesting, tough job. I know, right? Are horseflies the ones that lay eggs in you, or is that something else? No, that's something else. That would be blowflies. And botflies, I think. Or maybe it's just blowflies. Do you ever play music on here? Yes, I do. I was just telling people, if anybody donates $20 or more on Cash App, which you can find in the stream description by long pressing or pressing the three dots and going to the description tab, $20 or more on Cash App, I will play 3 songs. Or if you wait around for 25 more minutes, 35 more minutes, we will turn on members only live chat, and we'll probably play some music at that point. Are you smoking weed or something crazier? It's just pot, bro. I am about to open it. I am about to light a cigarette, though. Honestly, good for you for doing what you believe in. Thank you. I just feel privileged that I get to make a living off of it, honestly. There's lots of people that want to do this, very few people that actually get to do it. The fly landed on your face and the fly is attracted to body oils. The fly didn't land on my face, though. I had a valid question. Well, you'll have to repeat it. Or send it in Super Chat. Either way, I'll see it. Wow, I've not been in here in a long time. Wondering if you remember me. No. Not really. What the fuck is this thing? The queen of your heart. We didn't land on the fly landed on us. Is that how we should think about it? If one of my mods goes back and tells me that a fly landed on my face, then I'll acknowledge it. But I literally just like washed my face with one of those like acne washes or whatever, like an hour and a half ago, maybe like 2 hours ago now. But still, let me see. I think that person reposted their question. Do you think Okay, so it's not called transsexuality anymore. It's called transgenderism. But let's see here. Do you think it's being pushed to cull people? Oh my god, dude, I wish that this shit... I'm just gonna have to... Hold on 1 second. I've got to pull it up on my other phone because Prism makes it incredibly difficult for you to scroll back up on the chat. For some reason. I don't know why they do that. Makes no sense to me. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Yes, indeed. Okay, so let me see the person's question. So, do you think transgenderism is being pushed to cull people, like how Planned Parenthood was created to reduce the black population? So, number one, Planned Parenthood, as far as I know, was not created to reduce the black population. I don't know where the fuck you heard that at. But no. In fact, we know for a fact that nobody is pushing trans people in order to cull the population because, number one, you can be trans and still have kids. Just because you're born trans doesn't mean that, and like you eventually end up coming out even, does not mean that you necessarily don't have kids at some point in your life. You could have kids before you transition. You could socially and outwardly transition before beginning your physical transition, and physically transition at a later date, or some other combination of the few. So there's that. There's also the fact that trans people have existed throughout pretty much all of human time, you know? Like, as long as we have been the modern Homo sapiens sapiens,
there have been trans people, as far as we can tell, and they have been distributed across cultures, geographies, etc. And it doesn't seem to make much of a difference, except when a certain ideology takes over and forces people to not live the way their brain and everything inside of them is screaming at them that they should live. Like, yeah, there are some societies that have suppressed trans people, but that is the exception, not the norm. Well, just because you are black does not necessarily mean that you're right on this, right? Like, I guess I'll look it up, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it's not going to tell me that. Was Planned Parenthood created to cull the black population? I guarantee you this is going to be a weird conspiracy theory. Well, I'm just going to read off what it told me. No, Planned Parenthood was not created to kill black people. The organization was founded in 1916 by Margaret Sanger to provide women with access to birth control, which was illegal at the time. Its creation was focused on the broader mission of reproductive rights and family planning. However, the organization's historical connection to race is complex and controversial. Eugenics. So in the early 20th century, Sanger was an advocate of the eugenics movement, which is widely condemned today as a racist pseudoscience. Eugenics promoted selective breeding to improve the human population. Okay, let's see here. So I'm going to go to worcester.edu, eugenics no matter what, investigation of the eugenic origin of Planned Parenthood and its effect on contemporary society. So let's see here. I'm reading through this real quick. Okay, this is incredibly long. I'm going to see if it has like a conclusion. Okay, I actually like this a lot. This would be a ton for us to read through together, though, and I mean a ton. It's 18 pages long, but it's written by Sarah McCree, the College of Worcester. I'm gonna look. Open with Drive, sure. So, Sarah, who? Sarah McCrae. Damn. Yeah, so I cannot verify the author of this, but so it does contain some interesting things. So it does look like originally the organization that would eventually become the Planned Parenthood Federation of America, or Planned Parenthood of America, or whatever name they're going under these days, it did have eugenic and even racist origins. It doesn't seem like the founder of the organization itself was, like, herself deeply racist, but she wasn't exactly like a pro-black person either. Wasn't like she was out there advocating for racial liberation or anything. um, I would have to read through the whole thing to make further conclusions, but it seems safe to say, based on this last paragraph, which I do think I want to read some of it, because I think some of its conclusions are interesting. So, a portion of the black community, including Dr. Alveda King, niece of Martin Luther King Jr., views the disproportionately high rate of abortions of black women as a tremendous loss of black life. In fact, at nearly 300,000 per year, the rate of abortion in the black community is higher than the death tolls of the top 10 leading causes of death among black people combined. Whether or not it is realized or intended, the Planned Parenthood Federation of America, as the single largest abortion provider in the nation, plays a role in the making of that number. I believe that this has less to do with a secret racist agenda and more to do with a genuine desire to aid struggling women. However, Planned Parenthood's approach is only a temporary fix at best. It does not get at the roots of what is causing women of color to struggle in the United States. Both pro-life and pro-choice advocates need to look at the broader context of abortion and acknowledge that a woman's racial and economic identities play a role in the decisions that she makes for herself and her family. When these identities remove her from the white middle-class community, the white middle-class community cannot expect her to be receptive to its arbitrary societal expectations. Women of color face unique challenges in the United States. In all areas of society, we must recognize these and other manifestations of institutional racism and actively work to expunge it from the record of America's present and future. So what it seems like it's saying there is that Planned Parenthood is not racist in intention or its existence, but that it's got some racist roots, and that the way things have gone over the last 100 years, partly with their involvement, although that's a very small part of the pie, has led to more black people getting abortions than white people do, and that like, it seemed to me from what I just read that the conclusion she's drawing, the author of that paper, is that the main reason for that is not because Planned Parenthood is some crazy racist fucking organization, or that abortion is some inherent evil that spreads through a community. It's more that people of color are less likely to have access to good schools in their area, steady housing, and housing that they would feel comfortable raising a child in. Like steady employment and shit. And these are problems that largely exist in black communities because of the actions of racist whites in positions of power throughout America's history and in America right now. Many things that benefit us have had starts from the wrong place. Indeed, Taylor. I couldn't have said it better. You got a $5 super chat from Joey? Okie dokie. I will pull it up on my other phone and read it, and me and Joey can continue our conversation. Thank you for reminding me. Or for letting me know, actually. Because I got so deeply invested in reading that I didn't, I didn't see it. Alrighty. Sanger was Planned Parenthood's founder. She was into eugenics and known racist. They placed PP locations deep in black communities for that, especially. Yeah, that seems to be kind of what I was reading in that paper. That doesn't necessarily mean that Planned Parenthood in its current incarnation is necessarily racist. Volkswagen was started by Hitler, you know? Nobody's running around saying that Volkswagen's got a secret agenda to gas the Jews, right? Can you play a tune? $20 on Cash App. Very simple. Yeah, so I'm not denying their racist and eugenic origins. I think that is clarified in the paper that I just read, as well as the little AI overview I was reading before that. My argument is that something can start one way and eventually become something else. There's an argument that the Klan might have started that way. Some people make the argument that the Klan originally started out as a fairly innocuous group of old men who'd served together in the Confederate Army, and then it grew into this horrible racist organization that realized it could obtain and maintain power in the South by terrorizing black people. I don't know if that argument actually holds any water. I would need to talk to some hopefully black historians to clarify that. But, you know, it's an argument I've heard, and it's not the only example of something like that happening. The Democratic Party originally started out as the party that was defending racism and like white supremacy and the institution of slavery, and then the party switch happened. You know, the Republican Party was originally the party of Northern industrialists and anti-slavery abolitionists, and then the party switch happened. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They invented Fanta. Is Fanta a Nazi fucking drink because it was invented by Nazis? I don't think so. I don't think, you know, like the amount of people of color I've seen fucking drinking Fanta would indicate otherwise too. How long have you been on HRT? Girl, I think it is so sweet that you think I've been on HRT for that long at all. I was on HRT for 3 months in 2020, and I want to get back on it this year, but I haven't been on it in a long time. LSD is a psyop by Big Migraine to wipe out the pharmaceutical industry? What? That doesn't make any sense. I've taken acid. Why specifically a black historian? Because I feel like a black historian would be most likely to, like, look for and spot the bullshit. Does that make sense? I would just, if I got it from a white historian, I would not be able to get over the kind of gnawing feeling in the back of my head that they're raising, or the people around them, by virtue of, you know, their skin color, might have fucking played a part in how they're going to approach this history, you know? Which is also true of a black historian, but in that case, it biases them towards revealing the darker sides of racism and slavery. And, you know, when it comes to a white historian, if they're going to have a bias in that direction, it's going to be towards covering those things up, or minimizing them, or trivializing them. That's not to say that a white historian cannot speak poetically and passionately about the oppression of black people. Howard Zinn is an example of that. But it's something that I would think about getting that kind of lesson, I feel like. Get out of here, kitty. I want to smoke. Did you not like HRT? No, I liked being on it. I was just not able to afford it after I lost my insurance. Yo, girly pop with the Will Byers cut. What? Sorry, you'll have to catch me up. They are a lot more unhappy with themselves as it is. They are a step closer to believing they're in the wrong body. Who are you talking about, Nick? What are you talking about? Hi, Cyan. I had a high school teacher, Paulsego, who was passionate about American history and particularly addressing the horrors and psychology behind slavery. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. People like that definitely exist. Yeah, no, for sure. Well, that's why I said hopefully. I didn't say only, you know? That's why I said hopefully, right? Is because while I think a black historian might be more likely to spot the to spot and clarify the sometimes more hidden depravities or less talked about or easy to find malfeasances and depravities of slavery, I certainly think white historians are capable of doing that. Hey Phoebe, you can still get it from websites that you can buy your HRT from. It's a lot cheaper. Ooh, maybe. I don't know though. Sounds like something I shouldn't talk about on the stream. Oh, thank you, Ghetto Jesus. Hey Phoebe, after watching Ed and Chase last two videos on Matt Walsh and another history channel, I like being copyrighted by him. Makes me wish YouTube had better guidelines on misinformation on history. Another history channel, I like being copyrighted by him. So wait, what happened, Ghetto Jesus? Thank you for the $10, by the way. I appreciate that. So what is like Matt Walsh like copyright claiming At and Shay's video or some shit? That's the thing, dude. I hate these fucking right-wing pricks. Every time they start to get to a point where, like, every time one of their critics starts to get to a point where the video is getting really big, every fucking time, they try to take it off the internet. They try to get it taken down. They try to get it removed. Internet hasn't been super cool about people discussing non-pharma HRT sources. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I don't want to become the next demon mama. I'm not gonna lie. I don't exactly want to become the next trans girl with a deeper voice on YouTube and a particular aesthetic that is most well known for advocating for bathtub estrogen. Not really trying to become the next demon mama. Thanks. Listen, hey, if that's all you can get and that's all you can do, I'm not shitting on anybody for it. I'm not going to shit on anybody for it. But there's a reason why we have modern supply lines. There's a reason why we've got modern logistics chains and regulations and stuff like that. And I never got to debate her on the topic, but I've always wanted to argue with Demon Mama about that stance because it seems a bit hypocritical to me to advocate out of one side of your mouth that we need stronger regulations on pharmaceutical companies and on companies in general in the modern day, but it's also perfectly safe and acceptable and fine to promulgate the idea of people making their own drugs at home. I don't know. Seems like that's a bit contradictory to me, but I don't know. It's one thing if it's like whatever, you can grow your own weed at home, that's fine. You can fucking dry it, cure it, store it, do all that shit. Like there's some things you can do at home, it's just fine, but when it comes to like something like that, if you're going to be injecting it into you or
Like taking it as a medicine. I don't know about that. Hey, what's up, Mary Eli? I haven't seen you in forever. I'm glad you came through again. In 50 minutes, you made $35 from donations and memberships. Good for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to anyone who's gifted a membership as well, or sent a super chat or anything else. Personally, I think we should just make it more accessible through reputable sources. That's exactly how I feel. Yes, I think it needs to be way more accessible. First of all, I think the big thing is universal health care, obviously. Universal health care would clarify this and clear it up almost instantaneously. But even when you got universal health care, then you need to make it a lot easier for adult trans people to get their meds, you know, like with a few consultations. And obviously the government's going to have to be negotiating with these drug companies and producers and shit to make sure they're not getting fucking ripped off for no reason. Because that is one of the biggest grifts when it comes to the corporate healthcare system here in America. Hear me out, $1.99, that's not safe. You make your own meth at home, that's not good. You can't do that. I can't condone that behavior. That's bad. Don't. Dude, I tell you this much. Every motherfucker, I grew up in a tiny ass town in southeast Missouri. And I saw at least 3 houses a year burn down. Just burn right the fuck down. And in all but one of those cases, it was revealed at the end of the investigation that the cause was an unregulated fucking meth lab. So it's not safe. Don't do it. I agree that it needs to be legal and regulated so that people who are addicted can get a source that's clean and all that. But don't be making it at home. No, don't be doing meth. Don't be fucking doing meth in the fucking first place, okay? It's just not a good drug. What do you need meth for, okay? You got coffee. It was a joke. I meant, okay. Clever. You're so clever. Legal meth is a crazy take, is it? Let me ask you this. Is it better to have a society where meth is outlawed and prosecuted, and possessing it over a certain amount can just like ruin your life, and possessing it under a certain amount can still make your life pretty fucked up for a couple years, and where people have very few abilities to get addiction treatment or the ability to get off of it, where their drugs might be cut with all kinds of different shit so that the dealer makes more money on the back end? Is it better to have a world like that, or a society where someone who ends up getting addicted to meth because of whatever limited street supply is left, or because of someone that they hang out with or whatever, has a legal route to get that, where it is lab tested, pharmaceutical grade, clean, dosed in recommended and safe dosages and predictable dosages? That's the word I was looking for. Where people have access to rehabilitative services and can reach out for help without fear of going to prison. Which one of those places do you think would be better to live in? Because I can tell you what the fucking science says. The science says that when you have the latter policy, when you actually allow people to have legal access to these drugs and mechanisms by which they can test the purity of stuff they do get on the street, and where they've got access to places where they can use without fear or judgment or getting locked up or anything else, or causing a nuisance to the public, which is a big thing that people complain about. Big part of the reason why people use on the sidewalk is because there's not a tent set up somewhere that's away from the public site where they can go in, and honestly, people fucking talk shit about opium dens, but that was one of the fucking benefits to the way that it was done. It was the fact that, at the very least, people weren't smoking their opium right on the sidewalk. There was a fucking place where you would go to do it. Same way with bars, and for some reason people get that with bars. People get it with alcohol. When it comes to the drug alcohol, people understand what is it called?
What is a safe consumption zone called? Oh, okay, yeah, I was right. So yeah, they're safe consumption zones, medically supervised healthcare facilities where people can consume pre-obtained drugs under the care of trained staff. They are primarily called overdose prevention centers, supervised consumption sites, or safe injection sites. And what this does is, number one, if someone should overdose, it provides a trained medical personnel person that can help them right then and call for help immediately. So that's the biggest thing for everybody involved's health. It makes things a lot better. It makes the public health burden a lot easier and a lot more efficient, right? The next thing it does, the second thing, is something I just mentioned. It gets people who are using hard drugs off the street. So now, instead of, and like I said, this is a concept that, with the terms we were just talking about, is usually best applied to hard drug sites and things like that, hard drugs, but like the idea of a safe consumption zone or an overseen consumption site or something like that, that exists in devolved form as a bar or as a weed lounge, which more and more states are opening up. Weed lounges, bars, people understand this when it comes to those two things. But for some reason, you want to tell everybody, yeah, I think there should be a dedicated spot somewhere in the rundown part of town where people are doing drugs anyway. I think they should rent out a building on fucking, a 1-floor, 2-story building or whatever, where there's some fucking, there's water there, there's some fucking snacks if somebody does something that causes them to spike their blood, crash their blood pressure or whatever it is, Diabetics do drugs sometimes too. You've got some shit there so people can fucking get calories if they need it, get water if they need it. There's medical personnel there. Very simple, very easy, cheap solution. Joey with the $5. Between the KKK, rogue cults, and mixing U.S. Gov with faith, realizing Protestants are the problems, but my Catholic ass realizes it's how holy wars start. Literally, I've been wondering how long it would take you Catholics to get sick and tired of the Protestants fucking everything up. As an atheist, I think it's about time for another holy war between the Christians myself. I'll be rooting for you when you get the Crusader tattoo, Joey. You know what? At least Catholics accept evolution. At least Pope Leo is a cool guy. I blame King Henry. You should, yeah. Martin Luther was bad enough, but then King Henry came along and really fucked it all up. I'm Henry VIII, I am. Henry VIII, I am. I got married to the widow next door. She's been married 7 times before, and everyone was a Henry. She wouldn't take a Willie or a Sam. I'm Henry VIII, I am. Henry VIII, I am. Never one was an Henry. She wouldn't take a Willie or a Sam. I'm a great old man, I'm Henry. Henry VIII, I am. Second verse, same as the first. I'm Henry VIII, I am. Henry VIII, I am. I got married to the widow next door. She's been married 7 times before, and everyone was an Henry. She wouldn't take a Willie or a Sam. I'm a great old man, I'm Henry. Henry VIII, I am. Let's see here. What's going on? Real talk, I don't do tattoos because I still have a belief of no trace for
Military, that, and enjoying hot springs for my Japan trip upcoming. Oh, right on. Nice. Wait, what's wrong with tattoo? Wait, hold on. What's that? No trace? What's the what? What's that about? What, you can't have fucking tattoos in the military because some enemy will track you with them or something? You know, it's always been kind of insane to me. Not always, I guess, but in the last 20 years, or not, the last 10 years, it's become kind of crazy to me to think that there's, like, it's weird to me that there's still an incentive on some level to kill specific service members. But I guess it's now more important than ever now that we've got such pinpoint fucking weaponry. Huh. I was just thinking about it, and what that's based on is my having overconsumed a lot of World War I and World War II movies. Maybe even some Vietnam movies. And I imagine in those instances it really, like, didn't matter that much, I would imagine. Maybe? Like, it's probably, like, less specific people being targeted and more groups of people being targeted, I would assume? That's what it looks like? That's what it seems like? If you have tats while in field for my line of work, it's on identity marking, and of course, no tats on authentic hot springs. Yeah, no, that's fair, that's fair. That's valid. No tats on authentic hot springs. Is that because, like, bacteria or something? Dude, I'm an idiot. I don't know any of this shit. I'm 22 years old and I'm still deathly afraid of needles. I can't do it. Yeah, I'm terrified of needles. I always have been. Although I did manage to donate plasma for a brief time in my life. I'll never do it again, though, because they injured the fuck out of me last time I went there. Last time I went to a plasma clinic, they literally butchered the fuck out of my arm. I thought I was going to lose my arm. I thought it was going to go necrotic, dude. I was so fucking worried. Oh my god, and I can still feel the pain sometimes when I think about it. Ugh. I had a fucking bruise from here to here, and it's still, to this day, there are tendons in my arm that hurt sometimes. Like when I stretch it or turn it the right way. Or when it's just too cold or the fucking pressure's right. It's just, ugh. Man, they butchered me. Fucking vampires. Ow. Where's your toothbrush? Oh, I left it with your dad when I was fucking him in the ass last night. He said something about having to use his to clean the dust off the family computer because he's been asking you to do it forever and you don't ever do shit, so figured I'd be a sport. Let's see here. It's basically Japanese see tats as a criminal thing. It seems you're not pure anymore. Bad enough they even have no non-Jap springs. Damn. Yeah, the Japanese are pretty nationalist as fuck, though, from what I understand. Alright, guys, I need to sleep. But before I go, this person was culled by society but for a eugenics experiment. I'm really sad this person and people got caught in this trap. You realize I have a kid, right? You realize I have a kid, and I had that child after I came out as trans, and after I started living as a woman, right? So, like, if I've culled myself from society, in what way have I done so that any cisgender person is not doing so? Sometimes it takes 2 generations. That's true for literally any human being on the planet, trans or not. Just because you're cisgender doesn't mean you're going to have kids. And you want proof of that? Just look at the male loneliness epidemic. Lots of cisgender men running around right now wishing they could have kids that can't. The fact that I made it one generation further disproves the premise. I think we should have less kids, actually. I mean, like, I don't think we should have tons of kids, no. But I also don't, I'm not an anti-natalist, and I don't think people should be told, like, don't have any kids, you know? Like, it's terrible to have kids. You should not be having kids right now. Like, I don't know, man. Like, people gonna keep having kids. I think it's better to say, you should be responsible about the amount of children you should have. I think that that's intelligent and reasonable. Be like, you know, judging people for having 5, 8, 10 kids, that's fine. Judging people for having 2 kids, that seems a bit ridiculous to me personally. In all fairness, the male loneliness problem is more of a marketing problem than a product problem, but social media has definitely caused a lot of issues for modern relationships. Well, sure, but I was more like using it as an example of like the person's idea seemed to be that I've culled myself from society under the premise that I can't reproduce now because I guess they think I'm a eunuch. But I'm intact. I have not had bottom surgery. Not that that's any of your business. And I was able to sire a child. So, I don't know. Seems like they might be wrong on their assumptions and premises about trans people, but I have antinatalist tendencies, but I do really try to check my bias and not badger people. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind people with antinatalist tendencies, but people that are deeply and hardcore antinatalist do bother me. Because I can't take it seriously. I cannot take it seriously because it seems like a fundamentally unserious ideology. You're gonna convince every human being to stop having kids. You're not gonna live long enough to convince every human being to stop having kids. There's not enough antinatalists. Like, honestly, what you're really trying to do is convince enough you're trying to convince enough people that do or do not have kids to become antinatalists so that they will eventually teach enough people so that eventually you do have a critical mass of people that you can be like, all right, now we shall begin pushing for the big, you know, like, we're going to start badgering people into not having kids, yada, yada, yada. This is like a hundreds of years long movement that people are wanting to see happen. And I think an evolving movement that's got different goals and is meant to accommodate the changing tides and everything can handle that. But the idea that one specific line of thought is going to survive that long, like one specific line of thought and one specific end goal, one that is so contrary to human desires and biology. Like, we're biologically hardwired to want kids. It's not just like it's a thing that like most people experience at some point in their lives. It doesn't mean there's not exceptions, but like any animal, we are kind of instinctually driven to reproduce. And I don't know that you're going to get ahead of that by guilting people about how bad society sucks. You know? Because frankly, society sucks to different levels to different people. What is awful depravity for one person is a normal state of affairs for another. And what is extravagant wealth for one person may be just, you know, how they see the world and how it's supposed to be and all that. And of course, I obviously think we need to move beyond the capitalist world and everything. But that's a separate conversation from this. Yeah, for the record, I'm not pro-eugenics. I don't know if somebody's making that argument or anything, but I'm not pro-eugenics or anything. I think it's a depraved practice. But if we're going back to that abortion thing, abortions are not eugenics. There's a fucking profound difference between aborting a kid who is almost certainly going to live a life of abject suffering and wanting to like go around erasing those people from existence and like plotting their permanent non-existence from society, which I object to. I think that if a person, like, honestly, I think that society will probably eventually get better at fixing a lot of these problems and helping people live longer and better lives, despite the different issues that sometimes make people want to abort a fetus at this stage in medical science. And so I think there's an argument to be made that people, if they want to, should be, you know, totally not totally like totally allowed to have a kid that is going to have some things that are going to make its life more difficult. One thing I will say though is that I think a lot of people don't really appreciate how much suffering is being discussed and referenced when we're talking about a lot of the so-called targets for eugenics policies that people will bring up these days. Like, Down syndrome is a fucking horrible illness that is just awful to live with and awful to see someone living with. Awful to know someone's living with. And I get that there's different degrees, of course, and I don't see anything at all less human in them. Yeah, but that is exactly why I think that if someone makes the decision based on very early testing in the first few months of pregnancy to abort a fetus because it's shown that that's going to be a Down syndrome baby or something, I can't blame a parent like that for making that decision and sparing that child the endless years of trauma and bullying that they might have endured having been born. But at the same time, I think that it's very important that we retain our positive momentum towards making society better for all kinds of people, no matter how disprivileged someone might be by virtue of their birth. By the way, you said somebody said something in chat about that meaning less idiots. No, eugenics policies are not going to target what you think of as idiots. Down syndrome people, autistic people, which are sometimes the targets of eugenics policies and policy conversations, Harlequin babies, fucking people with severe learning disorders that I don't know the name of. You know, like, these people are not the reason why politics sucks in 2026. Okay. It's got nothing to do with fucking, with neuroatypical people. Literally, it's got nothing to do with us. It's got to do with the billionaire class and their utter fucking karate, like kung fu grip on power, wealth, and the means by which everything is done. And it's our seeming refusal to take that back from them. Lightning Fish, do you realize that transgender people have been around for all of human history as far as we can tell? Or is that something that I need to pull up the paper on for you to believe? Chemical castration was not? What is it your business if I've got a functioning dick and balls? Can you explain that to me? I don't want to hear another fucking thing out of you. I want to know what business is it of yours if my dick and balls produce sperm or not. See, Joey, I don't even disagree with you necessarily. Christopher Hitchens used to make the same point, and he's a fucking atheist. My argument is that, sure, life might exist at conception. I also go back to the George Carlin quote. You know, I think life began about 1 billion years ago and it's just been rolling along ever since, right? um, you know, the argument I would make is that, sure, life might exist at conception, but my argument would be that that life exists and is completely dependent on, like, exists at the mercy of, and is because it is completely dependent on the life of the person carrying the pregnancy. It is a life that cannot and will not exist without that without that person's cooperation, and without that person's body's cooperation. Sometimes a pregnancy someone wants to happen self-aborts. I struggle with the abortion issue. I believe human life needs to be respected from conception. However, a woman's life in danger should be protected first. That can be said for an alive baby too, Phoebe? No, it can't be. See, because an alive baby can be transferred to the care of someone else quite easily, and they can continue living. They might suffer somewhat from not getting what is it called? The early milk. I can't remember, castrum or whatever it's called. I can't remember the name of it. But the stuff that comes out of the titties for the first like few days or weeks or whatever, they might miss out on that, sure. But like there are women who don't believe in abortion who give up their babies and then are no longer responsible for them, and that baby does not die. That baby goes on to live in foster care because babies are adopted more often than any other type of child. I'm saying that dependency doesn't give someone a right over the baby. It does, though. It does, though. And because, like, it's not just, like, dependency. It's not just context. I don't know how to put it. It's not... when it comes to a baby, the dependency is on, like, external sources, external inputs. A baby, like a little human baby, can be raised by a machine, basically, at this point. They don't even really need a human mother to raise a baby at this point. They've got the technology to do it. We've just figured out that it's not exactly great for kids' social development, you know? It's the main reason we don't do it, but we have the technology to do it and to make a kid come out fine. Well, relatively fine. But you get the idea, right? Whereas with a fetus, that fetus is directly dependent on the body of the mother. It's not dependent on society. It's not dependent on external stimulus. It is dependent on a specific person. The person whose body it is inside of. It's the same thing as if let's say we were best friends and we got into a car wreck and you were driving and I got egregiously injured and I needed a blood transfusion and we're the same type. You know they could not compel you to give me blood, even if in doing so it would mean you basically murdered me, and you might actually even end up getting charged with murder, not because you didn't give me blood, but because you drove the car that crashed that led to my death, if you were found at fault and everything, right? So that is an example of how we seem to recognize this when it comes to fully grown human beings, but we want to extend some kind of weird, like, extra rights to fetuses. I support people's freedom to do these things. It just makes me sad. Well, Lightning, I've asked you a couple of times for some arguments, and you've just got, like, platitudes and complaints, so I don't know, man. Seems like a you problem. Say you were on an island with the baby. You are the only caretaker. Based on the logic of dependency, giving a right over the baby, you could just take the kid out. You might want to come up with a better example. I don't even know if I want to point out the obvious logical flaw. Okay, I'm just going to do it. Yes, you could. I'm not saying it would be right to do so. I'm not saying I could. But, like, if nobody else knew you were there with that baby, and you were the only moral actor in the fucking situation, then, like, morally, no. Morally, no, you know, like... Pragmatically, though... Okay, so Lantern, let me turn the example around on you since I entertained your island metaphor. Entertain my car wreck metaphor. Why do I not have a right to obligate you in that instance? I'm not saying, like, obviously a person in that instance is almost certainly going to choose to give the blood to save themselves from a murder conviction. I get that. But what I'm asking you is make the moral argument. Like, make the moral or legal argument by which you think that I could or should be compelled, or compel you, rather. No, the rebuttal to that was pointing out that in a situation like that, there's a lot of things you could do that, like, the moral dimension of it would never come up because no one is around to fucking account for the morality of it. So you provided a horrible example to make your point. I pointed that out. You're mad I didn't give a direct rebuttal to it, but I guess I'll try again. The fact that a fetus is directly and solely dependent on the person to whom it is attached means that it is a responsibility of theirs. It is a thing that they have to deal with. And it is entirely the person whose body is necessary for the happening of this to fucking do, you know, on whether or not to bring that to term or to abort. I'm very distracted by this fly. You'll have to forgive me. Oh, by the way, it's been members only time for a while. So Lantern, you're gonna have to sign up for a membership or consider the argument closed at this point. Because it's been members only time for a minute. I'm saying if a fetus, you realize a fetus and a baby are two different things, right? Sure, but no one's talking about aborting 9-month-old. Oh my god. I hate this argument, man. I hate it because I feel like there's a straw man implicit in the abortion debate, right? And the straw man is that there's all these women out here waiting around till they're big around as the moon to get an abortion.
You know when an abortion happens in those cases? When you've already picked a name. When you've already got the kid's room set up. You've already got the preparations made. You might even have the diaper bag ready. And then one day, you go in for a routine checkup. Turns out there's a complication. Baby's dying inside of you. Or maybe the baby's not dying inside of you, but they know for a fact that it's not going to survive out of the womb. You know, there are babies whose lungs fail to develop. And if a baby's lungs fail to develop, it's not like there's just another baby sitting around they can take the lungs out of and give it to that baby. So at the point where something like that happens, if you outlaw abortion for instances like that, even if your law tries to account for it, what often ends up happening is women end up being forced, obligated, really, by the law, to deliver a baby they know will not live, that may even be dead already. I think there also needs to be more be more understanding between the difference between miscarriage and elective abortion. Well, sure, but how many people want to acknowledge that difference? And I mean on the right, by the way. Seems like people on the left are pretty familiar with that difference from what I can tell. But there's a lot of people on the right, man, that want to write their abortion laws such that they also criminalize women who have a miscarriage or who have a pregnancy with some kind of horrible birth defect that makes it so that the pregnancy is unviable or whatever. Just sucks. Yeah, it's cruelty to the mother. Massive cruelty to the mother. I don't think this of Joey, but I do think that a lot of conservatives, like I said, I don't think this of Joey, but I think that there are quite a few conservatives out there who, like, their stance on abortion is less informed by, you know, like a thorough understanding of the issue at hand and more just kind of misogyny. I think there are some dudes that like opposing abortion because they know that it puts women in an uncomfortable spot. Well, it's not even an assumed rule. Like I said, some. You know, I didn't say most. Oh. I mean, ultimately, I think all anti-abortion positions probably, like, reduce down to misogyny on some level. But the degree to which that is true, I don't know. I don't know how you quantify it either.
feel like I can fly now. Oh my god. Do you ever pee so much that it like repositions your body and shit and enables you to fart? And then you have a really relieving fart? Oh my god. Sorry, y'all. Appreciate you, Beef. I have a big degenerate streak and partly responsible for a lot of warheads on foreheads, but I'm also a guy who wanted to always talk with an open mind. That's why we love you, Joey. Oh. Yeah, for sure. Joey gives me a little bit of hope, too, you know? The fact that conversations can still be had is actually really nice. As we go marching, marching. As we go marching, marching through the beauty of the day. 100 darkened kitchens and 1,000 millwatts gray. 1,000 darkened kitchens and 100 millwatts gray are brightened with a radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing bread and roses, bread and roses. As we go marching, marching, we battle too for men. For women are their mothers, and we mother them again. Our life shall not be sweated from birth until life closes. Hearts starve as well as bodies give us bread, but give us roses. As we go marching, marching, unnumbered women dead are hurt through or call their ancient call for bread. No more the drudge and idler tend the toil where one reposes, but a sharing of life's glories, bread and roe. But a sharing of life's glories, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we go marching, marching, we bring the owner's fall. The rising of the women means the rising of you all. I just now heard the train. I love that sound. Nice. My Italian ass, though, still follows Knowles, though, and I know he's hated here. Tim Pool's good, in my opinion. Tim Pool's pretty awful, too. Not necessarily because he's, like, the worst guy ever or whatever, just because, like, man, that dude doesn't know fucking... That guy does not know up from down when it comes to political predictions. Okay? Listen, you want a good political prediction, you come to my ass. But Tim Pool, he's like the reverse Oracle. Pretty much everything Tim Pool says is going to happen happens the opposite of the way he predicts it happening. But whatever. I don't hate the guy. I tell you this, you know what? Try and, sign a good faith on my part. I genuinely appreciate the journalistic work that he did for Occupy Wall Street. And I agree with some of his criticisms of how the movement got co-opted and devolved. But yeah, no, we're not big fans of Michael Knowles. Is Michael Knowles the one that keeps a fucking banjo behind him? Can that motherfucker actually play a banjo? I made a lot of money off his predictions, more than Shapiro at least. I enjoy EO's debate. Oh. Well, maybe Tim Pool's learned a fucking thing or two from the left. Okay? Alright? No, I don't know. As much as I disagree with Tim Pool, he's willing to engage and also has a giant skate park, so yeah. You know what? I really do think the reason why Tim Pool is able to maintain kind of a cooler status amongst the debate podcast bro community or whatever is because A, he's willing to talk to a lot of different kinds of people and stuff, and B, from my understanding, whenever he has one of those conversations, it's pretty common for him to kind of like, you know, wine and dine you a little bit, for him to kind of like treat you like he's got this giant skate park and all this stuff at his complex or whatever. I don't know. That's what I've heard, but I don't know if it's true. I tell you this much, though. If I ever get to the point where I've got, like, a really awesome little complex or whatever, even if it's part of a commune or something, and coming to that as part of the show, definitely I'm going to do the same thing. I can't even lie. I'm definitely going to do the same thing. Because it's kind of a flex. It's kind of a psychological thing. If that's true about Tim Pool, if what I just described is true, the reason why he does it, because he's not the only one, there's plenty of people that do stuff like this, the reason why rich people do that, and people who have the ability to, that aren't even that rich, will do stuff like that, is as a flex without flexing. It kind of feels like they're just showing you all this cool stuff that you might be interested in, or entertained by, or whatever, but what it really is look at what my career has bought me. Look at what I own. Look at all the good I can provide. And it's meant to play on any kind of deals you make, any kind of fucking interactions you have. I enjoy that he has Phil LeBon on the show. Love All That Remains and an NH guy. Yeah, that's valid. You got to show the local love, a little bit of support, you know. Also, I've seen Michael Knowles acting real from before. He was a pundit, and he's actually not bad. I will say, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Anything I've ever seen of Michael Knowles, he's just making. Okay, we're back. We back. Considering I just bought 5K in fireworks, this made me laugh. Doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. We made the stream come back on just in time for us to talk about Joey's extenuated fucking fireworks purchase. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Sorry. I'm hyper. Arrgh! I ordered a new musket too, powdered wig, we going off, nice. Also from earlier, I love hearing opposing arguments, call it what you want, but I used to love listening to conservative AM radio when my car still worked as a leftist, discourse maxing, you know. Yeah, actually, I defend that, because when I had a car of my own too, and was driving more regularly, I'm not saying I would do it all the time, but I would do that every so often. Especially when I had I used to have this little Chrysler 200, but it was one of the really nice ones that had all the features and a Bose sound system in it and all the fancy stuff. But I used to tune it to AM radio stations sometimes, and you could find the craziest shit. Sometimes I would find like explicitly politically conservative political talk radio, I mean, and then at least one time I remember I found end of days preachers. Literally. People talking about the rapture and the end times and Israel and the land of Nod and all this bullshit. I hate flies. Anyway, I try to make an effort to watch at least one leftist opinion / podcaster for every right winger, and that's a good practice to try and have. I listen to a lot of content at this point in my life that is explicitly conservatives versus leftists, and sure, I'm watching the leftist channel, so maybe it's something I should ameliorate there, but I do like to think that I still stay pretty abridged of conservative discourse and stuff like that through that sort of content, as well as just being able to like hop on Twitter, certain parts of other social medias. I'd watch Hannity, Mark Levin, and then Wacko Conspiracies after midnight. There's something about being a left-winger, like a hardcore left-winger, and watching conservative media. There can be something kind of salutary about it, and I think it comes from, at least for me, I will sometimes watch conservative media and just think, how the fuck people think this shit? And then other times it's good to watch because you just think, how intellectually or morally superior I am. Either one is a good feeling to have. Dude, so my M2 drive came in today, and I haven't gotten it installed yet, but I guess I was expecting it to be like that long or something. This fucker's like that fucking long. And it's not even as long as my glasses are wide. And it holds 2 terabytes of data. And it weighs like 3 grams. I don't even get it. When I first started building PCs, which was only like 15 years ago, I don't think that was a thing. Maybe it was a thing. Maybe it was just like a rare thing and some people had it, but I don't remember it being a fucking thing. I remember the SATA cables and SATA drives. Technology, I know. Ooh. It made my blood boil sometimes, I won't lie. I'd have to switch yeah, sometimes that happens. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Me and my mom are both the same way about one thing, about lots of things, but we're the same exact way when it comes to, specifically to our relationship with the television in a hotel room. And I guess I never realized it about my mom, maybe. But, so every time when I was traveling on the road and stuff, when I was like traveling in my van and everything, living on the road, and even before that, when I've been in a motel room by myself or whatever, I've always enjoyed turning on the motel cable and figuring out what do they got on offer, what is available for us to watch, what kind of channels they be getting and shit. And my big thing for years, I would turn on Family Guy, and then me and my old road dog Adam, when we separated from our other road dog, and their ex, well, things got a little tense with Family Guy, because that was one of the things their ex liked to watch too. So we didn't watch that anymore. We would like find like a nature documentary or Jerry Springer or some other crazy shit. And that's one of the things that I still to this day do. And I didn't really think it was going to happen this when we went up to Missouri, but then, you know, we got everything settled up there, sure enough, and it was both of us trying to figure out how to turn the TV on and how to get some white trash TV on that bitch. And sure enough, we did end up watching some white trash TV. I can't remember if it was Maury Povich or Jerry Springer or a combination of the two. I think it was both. And there was something else we watched before that came on too. Can't remember though. But it was fun making fun of the stuff we'd see on TV, the commercials every now and again, you know, bouncing off of it with my mom and everything. I don't know. Me and my mom get along well, and that trip was fun, so. White trash TV can be fun, especially, like, honestly, I don't think white trash TV is fun if you're just, like, sitting around watching it for, like, everyday, regular, chill entertainment. But if you're sick and you can't really get off the couch, my top 5, everybody in here, I want you to give your top 5 things to watch when you're sick or hurt or like it's so cold that you can't go outside or whatever. Like, you've got to stay inside. You want to fucking just chill out and vegetate, and it's not like, you know what I'm trying to invoke here, right? We all know that? Okay, with that understanding, here's my top 5 list. Okay? Kitchen Nightmares, Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. Hotel Hell, okay, both good. Jerry Springer, alright, both very high quality. David Attenborough documentaries of all different kinds. Let me think here. Oh, cable news. Let's see. My go-to is always creature features, like old Godzilla and stuff. Nice. Fair enough. That'll work. Nature docs for sure. Yes, yes. Price is Right. Yes, yes. Yeah, that's why I'm liking what I'm hearing. Oh, that's the other thing we watched. Price is Right. Or was it Jeopardy? Is Jeopardy the one where you have to answer in the form of a question? Because I think that was the one we watched. And I feel like there is something very adjacent to like the hotel room experience. Like, we're just here for a short time and we don't even really want to get all that familiar with the room. Do you guys ever think about the fact that a hotel room is itself a liminal space? Like, a liminal space is just a place that is not intended to be lived in or stayed in long term or whatever. That is transient in its use or something. I forget exactly how it's described, but a hotel room fits the definition, from my understanding. Because all a hotel room has to do to become not used for its original purpose is for the owners to take it off the registry of available rooms and to start putting shit in it instead. Using it for storage or living out of it themselves. And all of a sudden it's not a room anymore. It's another thing. But even after it's not that thing anymore, it'll be something else. And before it's that something else, it'll be empty. It'll be liminal. Or is it all liminal the whole time? Always, all the way down? I don't know. These are the questions that drive me crazy. I don't know why, but I've always been drawn to the fantasy of a world where humans have become a lot more rare, and where this has happened over so short a time, where you can still visit the remains, basically, of human civilized society, and much of it still works even, but there's just not really people there, or there's very, very few people there, or there's like, it's almost, like, not the Walking Dead kind of thing, because I don't like the idea of zombies. That's fucking scary and spooky, and in most cases it's just a fucking stand-in for societal upheaval anyway. I think I really do want to see a movie or some kind of work of fiction or something that captures the spirit of the desolate, or like the devastated, the devastated and desolate zombie wasteland, but without all the fucking stupid ass zombies. Nix the zombies, okay? But keep the crazy shit. Phoebe, you look deceased, I'd say sleep. Do I really look that tired? Do I really look that sleepy? My favorite non-sexy time hotel moment was coming back from the base in time to watch my Patriots come back down 14 points twice on path to Super Bowl. Random thought. Aw, that's cool. That's cool as shit, Joey. That's a good, memorable moment. Oh, fuck. I ain't gonna lie to you. I do be thinking about me some sleep. I do be thinking about it hella hard. Actually, I was just sitting here thinking about my, the dinner I'm making tomorrow. I'm making, smoked pork belly. But it's cut up into little chunks. Because I found it at the local grocery store. And they have this, like, pick 5 for $25 or whatever. They have this deal where, it's like bulk buy the meat and you get it for cheaper. And it's in little individual packages. It makes it a lot easier for food prep. Because it's in like 1 pound to 1.5 pound packages. So I've got like 2 pounds of pork belly that's cut up into 2-inch to 3-inch chunks. And I'm sitting here debating on if I should just put them on the smoker. I've got an electric smoker. It's a chip smoker, an electric chip smoker. It's not automatic, so I'll have to just stuff the wood box full at the very beginning of the cook, and then as soon as it starts smoking, I put it in there, leave it until I check it, it's done. So, but I'm thinking, if I put them on the grate, then what are the chances that that they shrink up and that some of them fall through the grate? That would be horrible. Or what if they don't fall through the grate? But what if they do like shrink up in a weird way and kind of like get stuck on the grate?
See, I've got a tinfoil pan I could put them in. Just not sure if that would be... if that'd be good. Ooh, yum. Yes. Yeah, girl knows how to cook. I'm actually a really good cook. I ain't even gonna lie. I can't lie to you people. I'm a damn good cook. I'm a damn fine cook. Y'all should be jealous. I was exhausted from a nuclear operation readiness inspection, so yeah, it was a good way to end that whole day. Being told the whole day, yeah, we'd be dead, but Jet's gotta get off the ground wasn't fun. Yeah, no, for sure. Especially botulism pastrami. Shut up, Melanie. Whatever. That's just proof of how good a cook I am. I made my own homemade pastrami, cured it and everything, and it turned out fine. And it was pink, and all the stuff. It was yummy, too. It was real yummy. It's like exceedingly yummy. And thought you gave your whole family botulism? Well, that was before we had time to see if the effects were gonna happen. Okay? Now that I've had time, and hindsight has given me the clarity to say so, I'm the best. It was funny. You're right. That was hilarious. I haven't stopped laughing about that. You guys rescued me from, like, panicking about it, though. Because y'all just made me laugh. And I made myself laugh. And it was great. I'm gonna take a few more hits with y'all. I don't wanna smoke alone. God damn, that's some tasty weed. I'm dry at the moment, but cheers. Cheers. I will smoke with you. I got a badass weed, babe. Nice. Nice. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. What? Back. I just heard the Turkey beat USA in World Cup. Thank God we don't care about soccer-wise go. There would have been bipartisan support to deny them weapons. Yeah, probably. I'm glad that even you can recognize that, Joey.
I say even you like you're ever unreasonable. I guess you do have unreasonable positions, but I honestly, now that I know you, I kind of don't understand how, but whatever. We'll get there when we get there, I guess. Um, but, um, so, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think it's absurd. I don't even know. How do we get to this point? I don't feel like politics was this fucking absurd when I was a kid. Was it always this absurd and I just didn't know? I don't know what it is. They aren't legal in Texas, but a friend knew a guy that had some, so I purchased it. It hits hard. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Right on. Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah, I think you meant like a dryer vaporizer, but yeah. I've never used a dryer vaporizer. You guys believe it? I've been told that it's the superior way to smoke, and that if you don't want to cough and you want to preserve your lungs, it's the way to do it. And when I make enough money, I probably will. Because I really do want to quit smoking. I'm not lying about that. I just don't have any fucking self-control. I just don't have any fucking self-control, man. It is so fucking habitual for me to smoke. And I'm not even talking about weed. Weed, whatever, I can... Like I said, dryer vaporizer, and then that is fine. But edibles, all that. But tobacco, I really do want to quit. I want to quit it, but it's so baked into my habits. You know what I think it is? I think I just you know, maybe I just figured out a solution. If I never develop the habit of smoking tobacco in the new studio, whenever that gets put together, then in theory, oh. It's always been this absurd, girl? Well, that's good to know. Yes, it was this bad, but made more apparent via social media. That's good to know. It's good to know that it's been made a lot more apparent, a lot more visible. Not necessarily that it's gotten more insane and absurd. I think maybe it's good, though, that the corruption is being exposed so widely and visibly. It's kind of like, the bourgeois billionaires and their fucking plans to subvert everybody's attention and goodwill by getting them all addicted to social media. It might end up backfiring on them after all. I used to sell them. I got a cheap one, though, not the packs. Those are like $200-$300. Yeah. Good shit costs money. And cheap shit ain't good. Good shit ain't cheap. Cheap shit ain't good. It's what my mechanic has up in his shop, on his little wall of funny little things that people have brought in or bought him over the years. I don't know. Every good mechanic, and probably quite a few bad ones, but every good mechanic I've ever used has had like at least one little wall of their shop office that is just dedicated to funny little sayings that mostly apply to small business owners, and some that apply specifically to mechanics and stuff like that. And it's funny though. I've never once felt the least bit ripped off by any of their labor prices or anything. Seems to me like they charge pretty fucking reasonable rates. In fact, pretty much every time I've went in there for something, it's been less than they quoted me.
I mean, it is more absurd at the moment, but it always has been absurd. Oh, okay. So it's getting more absurd, it's getting more visible, and gotcha. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. Yeah, they even used to have an island to retire to. Now that's gone. What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? See, that's the fucking thing. I feel like the Epstein Island and the Zorro Ranch are proof that this kind of thing has to be going on right now under our under our noses, and maybe even happening more places than we know. It might be even more widespread than we've conceptualized. Who the fuck knows? It's the scary thing about it, right? Who the fuck knows? I and everybody else would love to say, nah, I don't think another Epstein thing is going to come up. I don't think another Epstein thing is going to happen. Nah. They couldn't do it these days. There's too many eyes on him. Nah. Yeah, I don't think that's true. You know, there are islands all over this planet that have no human beings on them, or at least not according to any official sources. Tons of islands that could support human life if it were supported from afar. You know, that are not transient islands or whatever. They're there. You build something there. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. And that's before you even get in to the type of land that the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico occupied. Having been to New Mexico, I cannot stress enough to you guys how fucking remote the Zorro Ranch was. It was absurd how remote that thing was. It had a helipad so that people could get in and out of it super easily. It had an airstrip, which expanded the capabilities for people to get in and out even more. So you could, in theory, some rich fuck could fly him and his cohort, whoever that consists of, whatever that consists of, could fly from Jeffrey Epstein's rich-ass fucking mansion in New York City. Well, they'd probably take the cab or whatever over to the big airport in the area, the JFK. Take the standard fucking first class ticket airliner over to Santa Fe, and then go from Santa Fe in a private jet or a charter jet or something like that, something that's smaller, down to the Zorro Ranch. And then it turns around and flies back. And, like, who's gonna fucking see them? Only the people that are at the airports. They can, with the infrastructure they had on that ranch, they could make it so that that ranch could functionally exist there without anyone that lived within an hour of it knowing who lived there, where they went, or when they came and went, or anything. Well, the one video I saw of, I think it was Geechee Uncharted trying to get close. He filmed a structure that looks exactly like a body farm. That's disconcerting. That is very disconcerting, yes. And I'll tell you, even if you just look at the fucking, even if you just look at the images that are available on Google Satellite and everything, like on whatever it's called, Google Maps. If you look at the Zero Ranch just from above, just from what's available, not even going into the videos where people got up close to it or cut the wire or whatever, just that shit. Already, it's weird and disconcerting. Because when you look at it, what you see is basically there is like a little village that exists within the gates of this estate or whatever it is. There's a little village that exists within the gates of this big estate that looks entirely to me like it could genuinely be for enough people to keep that bitch running with no outside influence or contact, as long as they had supplies being brought in, which they could because they had an airstrip which was connected by what looked like a pretty well maintained gravel road to, you know, like the main driveway road up to the mansion. So then you get into close to the mansion itself. There's a helipad all close to it. There's these weird shaped gardens outside of it, which I guess is not that unusual for a rich person. But I remember seeing like these weird textures towards, I think, the west of where the ranch mansion basically is. I don't quite know how to describe it, but it was almost like, I don't know, kind of looked like maybe somebody could have been burying bodies out there to me, but what do I know? Small wooden frames barely above the ground. Oh shit, yep. That sounds like a body farm. Could be a lot of other things though too. Who knows, maybe they're just really bad about getting rid of their garbage. Maybe it's just like old supply cases. Everything else that was on them has disintegrated. Maybe it was just cardboard of some kind. Zero Ranch still has active security patrolling, I think. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. As far as I know, Zero Ranch was purchased by some eccentric, rich Epstein associate that has been exceedingly quiet about his plans for it. Then I guarantee that motherfucker is, I guarantee you they've got a constant fucking security patrol. It'd be crazy to have, what if we did the Area 51 thing, but to Zero Ranch? We're gonna storm Zero Ranch. They can't arrest us all. Kitty. What if we just do the Area 51 plan, but we do it for Zero Ranch? I believe in your pussy, in your pussy.
If it's still being patrolled, not under this government, well, yeah, no, they definitely want to patrol it. Fuck yeah. Why would they not want to patrol it, Melanie? Think about it. If they don't patrol it, what if some intrepid motherfucker gets in to Zorro Ranch and starts, like, taking pictures? Starts digging holes. Starts uncovering things. They don't want that. And you gotta keep tight security controls over that there Zorro Ranch. This government does not want any more stones on the Epstein files turned, and they are going to stop at nothing to make sure that that's how things go. I genuinely believe that. This administration wants to hide that. The reasons for that we can disagree on, we can debate it, but I think it's just the way it is. It just seems to be how it is playing out. If they don't, then for why they do not do more. Then for why they not release the Epstein files with only the victims' names redacted. For why? For why? That's all I want to know. For why? Because for why, though? I'm not going then. This government shoots first. Oh. I'm so retarded. I didn't even understand what you were saying. I misunderstood completely. Listen, okay? We don't know that they're gonna fucking shoot, okay? Listen, a lot more MAGAs probably thought they were gonna die than actually died in January 6th. I just think we need to, consider the example and think about applying it to Zorro Ranch. Zorro Ranch! Zorro Ranch! Zorro Ranch! Zorro Ranch! Let's all storm Zorro Ranch! The people deserve to know. We'll get to the gates and we'll go, why are you closed? The people of America deserve to know. Why are you closed? We wish to investigate. Why are you closed? Oh, they will shoot, but I like your enthusiasm. Hey, my heart's in the right place. If they do try, like, if they hold their gun up, we just go like, no, please. And it'll be fine. Trust me, it works. Okay. Guaranteed solution. And I believe in your pussy, in your pussy. So much good music happened in the early 2000s, and we ain't never getting that back. The sun just set a little different in the early 2000s, man, and it made the music different. And I don't know how to connect those two things with science, but I'll be damned if they're not true. Maybe that's just the nostalgia of childhood. It's getting harder and harder for me to distinguish that, and I think that it's giving me kind of an insight into the minds maybe of conservatives who are older and who maybe went through that but completely uncritically and never took account of their own tendency towards doing it. It's becoming easier and easier for me to look back at the time that I associate with, my childhood and going to school and listening to the music of my teenage years and everything else with just like, shit was better then. But then I think about it and I'm like, well, not really. Not in a lot of ways. Adult me, current me, present me, right now me, would not want to go back to 2008. Even if I could be present me, adult me, right now me in 2008, I wouldn't want it. And I want to remain cognizant of that as I get older so I don't fall into the trap of traditionalism. You know what it is? I've lived in the goddamn country too long. Or I've lived on the outskirts of society when I wasn't living in the country. I've lived at the edge of society for so long that I am starting to associate the nostalgia of my youth with the habits, ideas, aesthetics, and behaviors of just healthy neighborhood life. And maybe that's something that's kind of missing. Because you know what? I have lived at the margins of society for the last 5 or 6 years, but that being said, I would say North Adams, Mass was the last place I lived where the community and like the town felt alive to any degree. Where it felt like there were still people holding parties at their house, and there were still people playing fucking blasting music out of their speakers as they walked down the street, and people doing garage band shit out of their house, and that kind of thing. And I saw that, I've seen it in Cape Girardeau, Missouri as well. But it's been so long since I've seen it just recently, and I miss it. Inside me there are 2 wolves. Inside me there are 2 wolves, as they say. One of them is this crazy fucking party wanting, bar hopping, city loving, like degenerate. And also, and the other wolf is like this kind of reserved, chilled out, routines based, nigh on traditionalist, but with no opposing political opinions or anything going on like that. It's not like an internal debate in that way. It's just like it's like my brain can't decide which way it wants to live. I live too long the one way, I want to live the other way. I live too long the one way, and I want to live the other way. There's no good answer for this conflict. There simply is none. There's no good answer to this conflict besides maybe, I guess, befriending people in various cities I like. What's up, King Bugs? Thank you for the $10. Holy shit, Phoebe, you're still up? Not for that long. We've just been sitting here chilling and hanging out for a long time. We've been streaming for almost 2 hours at this point. I remember 2008 for a fun summer camp I did. And my MJ dying? Aw, that's horrible. I'm sorry. 2008 was Peachy Keen in the Great White North. Yeah. Oh, I just think 2008, and I just think, Obama, hope and change. I think brighter summers and less pollution, even though there probably was more pollution at that time. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. There's probably more now because how our population has grown and everything else. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, I guess. But I imagine, I guess, clearer skies, lower humidities, lower temperatures in general, more predictable winters, milder winters. I remember the cereal tasting better. I remember the fast food tasting better. I don't know, maybe things just dull as you get older. I was cooking rice and beans for my next 10 meals and tomatoes. Yeah, no, that's the thing. I get, logically, the 2008 was not a great time for everybody. There's tons of people that were struggling. Obviously, it's such a fucking clear, logical fallacy in my head, which is why I think I'm talking to you guys about it and trying to work it out. Because I get that it doesn't make much sense. And ultimately, it's emotional attachments that I have to this era. And it's emotional attachments that come from perceived differences in a positive direction between now and then. But really, things have gotten a lot better for me and for a lot of other people in the intervening 10 years. In some ways, they've gotten worse, or in the intervening 20 years, I should say. Ooh, but not one? Really? Damn. Okay, well, anyway. The drugs are better. No Rip Count Chocula. Hey, Dirty Dan, I haven't seen you in here in forever. Hope you're doing good. I miss when we called MDMA ecstasy. I think some people still do. I've certainly heard it called X before, an ecstasy. Being an adult is tiring. God damn, isn't it though? You ain't even kidding. Like, I spent all day today doing adult shit, and at this point, I'm just so fucking exhausted. The only reason I'm continuing to talk to you guys is because I'm treating you guys like my fucking unpaid therapists right now. Actually, you're paying me, so it's even better. It's even better than a therapist. I'm getting paid to do it. But no, seriously, I'm so tired. I woke up, admittedly pretty late, at like 12 noon, and pretty immediately got up and started doing shit, taking, like, fucking doing laundry and taking the trash out, and then I had to go do a bunch of fucking shopping. Just a fucking stupid amount of shopping. Not even for myself. Like, half of what I was getting was just stuff we needed for the house or in general. And so I went and did that, and part of what I had to get was feed for the animals. We got quite a few critters. So I had to haul 250 pounds of feed, basically, in 50-pound increments. Half the way I was able to haul it with a wheelbarrow, and then the other half I had to haul it by hand, up on my shoulder or whatever. And that fucking sucked, because it was so fucking hot. It was literally so hot that sweat was like rolling and dripping off my face actively.
Like, you could see the sweat rolling and dripping off my face because it was so hot, it was so humid. So your sweat just doesn't work. I had to take a break halfway through. Anyway, so I did all that and then got the stuff that I bought put away and sectioned away and everything. And then one of the things I did was I bought command hooks so that I can finally put an Ethernet cable back to my room so that I can so that when I'm streaming back there, the connection is more stable. So when I'm gaming back there or whatever, the connection is more stable. I'm getting the max speed out of my hardware that I possibly can. And I mounted all those hooks. But that took me longer than it should have because the type of paint that I was using, or not the type of paint that I was using, but the type of paint that's on the fucking hallway wall or whatever, is shitty ass landlord special tier paint. So I had to sand it down a little bit and then wipe it with a fucking microfiber towel. And then I could apply the fucking tape. But now they're holding good. Thank you, King Bugs, for the $10. And the $10 before that, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I appreciate it a ton. Thank you. I've slept through way too much this week. I have not slept enough. I've been super tired and sleeping way too much, although possibly not, because I've been up for more than 24 hours in a row. Times I'd like to admit. That's kind of how I feel. Like, is it really bad to sleep in till 12 if I'm staying up till 4? You know? At that point, because you guys know that I'm not, like, going to sleep, even if I were in the stream right now. It's like 4 in the morning. It's like 4 in the morning my time. If I were to end the stream right now, I would still stay up for like an hour so that I could eat, which I know is you're not supposed to do that before bedtime. I get it, but it's kind of hard for me to eat other times of the day. So I'm gonna stay up like an hour to eat and to relax and just decompress from the day and let my mind be turned off to an Any Austin video. By the way, go check out Any Austin's channel if you like video game content, because he goes into the philosophy of the game. I don't know how to put it. He's a very meta YouTuber. I don't know how to, I really do not know how to describe his content. Just go watch it. But it's my favorite, he's my favorite YouTuber to watch while I'm winding down and getting ready to go to sleep. So yeah, it's like I'll end this and then, you know, an hour later. But yeah, if I go to bed and I'm like asleep by 5 a.m., then it makes sense that I don't wake up till 12 noon. I'm sleeping a good 7 hours at that point. That's fine. That's fucking fine. But I would like to go to bed earlier. I'm just bad at it. Because in order to go to bed earlier, right, I've got to wake up earlier. Or I've got to, like, do a bunch more stuff. So I guess what I've been trying to do is get so much shit done over the last few days, and over the last little while, really, that by the time it is all finished and put in place, it'll be way, 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 way easier for me to just fucking pop on and do a stream at fucking 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and for me to have it look nice, and for me to be comfortable and have everything work good. I feel like all of this time investment I'm putting into will eventually enable me to live a more normal life and have a more normal schedule. But I gotta grind the midnight hours till I do. Nice, King Bugs. Tullamore sounds good. He's doing the doing the do-do, the do-do, the do-do-do. The do-do, the do-do-do, the do-do, the do-do-do, the do-do, the do-do-do.
Smooth stuff, but that's an afterthought for me. Yeah, true. I'm gonna try to adjust my nocturnal sleep by taking a nap from either 5 to 9 or 6 to 10 a.m. Okay. Hopefully that works. I don't know if it will. Hey, what's up, Riley? Babe, wake up. New ASMR just dropped. Phoebe does Morse code directly in your ear for 10 hours. How the fuck are you still paying me, King Bugs? Like, not money-wise, but, like, will-wise. Like, I'm literally sitting here doing Morse code with my mouth, rocking back and forth like a schizo, rubbing my eyes every 5 minutes because I'm about to fucking die of fucking exhaustion. Well, what is the content here? I'm not, at this point, I'm confused. And I'm the one sitting here doing it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, King Bugs. I love it, and I appreciate you, and it's genuinely fucking awesome how you support, even when I'm being kind of silly and a little stupid. I'm just that dude, I guess. That's cool, though. You like my silly, weird, little glitchy personality. You know, I've always felt like the character in Wreck-It Ralph that I most relate to is Vanellope. Phoebe, you would have been chilling with our gang when we were younger. Just weird stoner nothingness is the best chilling. Yes. Oh my god. I'm one of the coolest people. And I'm not even trying to be like a narcissistic bitch or whatever. I'm just saying, like, I feel like I really do add a lot to a smoke circle. I do. You know, the more I've got on me, the better I am. Like, if I've got a few different ways to smoke, then I've got like a pack of cigarettes on me, which I usually do, or a vape, either way. Sometimes I'll have my guitar on me, you know? And the more of those elements you add, the more interesting it can become. But even when there's no, like, even when there's just, like, maybe somebody's playing music on their phone or on a speaker, we're just sitting around talking, smoking, roll us a joint, pass it around. I make the good jokes, you know? I try to make the good jokes. Do you guys remember that one night when I accidentally fucking fell asleep in front of you guys? I almost fucking pushed that from my memory. But do you guys remember that shit? When I literally fucking just fucking went to sleep in front of you guys for 15 minutes? I still cannot believe that happened. If I do remember, like it was yesterday, yep. I ain't never gonna live that one down. I wish somebody would clip it. The entire clip of Phoebe falling asleep on stream and waking up and realizing. I could take the meat of it where I'm just asleep, repeat it for like 3 hours, and then be like, 3 hours of me sleeping on stream to study/relax to. Eepy beepy, yeah. I also remember the night you gave me the most physical and passionate performance on guitar and you were muted the entire time. Dude. That is... Oh, I think you did like 10 points HP damage reminding me of that. Oh, God, dude. I still can't believe that happened. I still can't believe that happened. I had like... That, like, honestly... I reacted worse to finding out that that impassioned performance was lost to time and not recorded because I hit the fucking stupid-ass mute button. I reacted worse to that knowledge than I've reacted to the knowledge that some of my loved ones were dead. I got pizza puffs. I got pizza puffs inside, which are basically like they're the crazy puffs from Little Caesars. Because fucking Little Caesars has these things. They're like bagel bites, but better. I don't know how to put it. I felt the same, Phoebe. Everything we do is constantly being lost to time. I know, right? Everything we do, lost to time. And it sucks. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm attracted to streaming and why I like doing live content is because I know it's there. It's being heard and seen by other people. No, it was great, like performance art. You know what? If that's the way it's read, then let that be the way it's read. The past is no longer real and the future lives in our imaginations. And the present is but an illusion. Merely a term. Just a word that we with the sentience to experience use to describe right now, but not just then. And somehow, not a minute from now either. And here it goes. Oh, it's gone again. There it is. Lost all the time. Time is a fat circle. I was overly ambitious with my whiskey consumption tonight. I've passed the threshold. Oh no. We got king drunk, bugs as fuck. Or wait, we got King Bugs drunk as fuck, I mean. Oh, we love you too, King Bugs. We fucking adore you around here, dog. Big dog. Big rabbit. Aw, King Bugs with the fucking $50. Thank you, big dog. I appreciate that. That's fucking dope. Hell yeah. What a kind guy. Girl, look. I saw. I know. King Bugs is awesome. I prefer the Dao. The Dao De Chang. Yeah, I'm gonna be real with you about the Dao. The Dao didn't make a lick of fucking sense. And I think it's supposed to be that way. But that pisses me off. What, if I write some fucking big tome full of contrivances, am I gonna be lauded as a fucking great American writer? I really should set about writing, like, the Southern Tao. Call it, like, the Dowel. Thank you, PK Pepper, for joining the membership. I appreciate that. The Tao is over 50 Tao. You just don't get it? No, I don't think you get it either, Dirty Dan. I don't think there's a fucking thing in the Tao you could explain to me satisfactorily. Not you, not Paul, not nobody. But I think the conversation that is had is the point. So I kind of like, on the one hand, I'm not really pissed off at it, and I kind of like it, begrudgingly. But on the other hand, it almost feels to me like the Tao wants me to be pissed out. I know the Tao doesn't have a will, but it almost feels like it wants me to be pissed off at the Tao Te Ching. It almost feels like it would be defying my nature. Because my impulse is to... maybe I understand the Tao better than I think. I don't know. But I should set about writing a Southern Tao, you know? One should govern a country as one smokes a pork butt. Being like water means being adaptable, boom. Water isn't adaptable, though. Water adapts in the moment as it has to, but then water will carve its own path. So water does not go with the flow. Water is reactive to all the things around it. Water is reactive to all the things around it, and it does not have any kind of will, as far as we know. That's what the analogy refers to? Right, but the difference is that water is subject to the laws of nature, which of course we are too, but it lacks fundamentally the ability to consider its decisions, or as far as we know, to even make decisions. And therefore, water is kind of forced to go where it wants to go. Being adaptable is fine and all, I guess. I just, I wonder if the metaphor of water could not be applied just as well to point out the massive power, right? Think about this, right? Because I'm a very collectivist thinker and a very Marxist thinker, even though I don't consider myself like a Marxist or a communist necessarily. What if the metaphor of the water was extended? Or if we were to extend it in our rhetoric? Personally, right here, right now, that just as we're speaking, I mean. And the metaphor of the water is no longer simply that one must adapt and react appropriately to the influences that push them to and fro. And we instead looked at what water does when constrained. Because when the masses of the waters have been constrained for so long, the degree of maintenance required to keep the dam holding the water back grows ever more intense. And eventually, if that water finds a little crack or a crevice, maybe it just seeps through for a while, but maybe it moves enough sediment through to create a little gush. And you know, it can take as little as a few hours, sometimes as little as a few minutes, as little as a single hour, for a pretty well-made and robust dam to be undermined by too much water and a clogged spillway. I don't know. It's interesting to think about. Phoebe is getting deep here, yeah. Oh, the fat rolls are where I hide my deepness. Water is unstoppable if there's enough of it, and exactly, yeah. So you're starting to see why I kind of like the metaphor of water, but dislike how it's often applied in Buddhist and broadly, Taoist and Eastern teachings. I like the idea of being resilient and adaptable, but I also like the idea of being powerful as a movement and able to forge a path where none seemed possible. I think water is also an excellent metaphor for change. It was Paulsego that revealed Amelia's, which is his wife. I think one of the most fascinating philosophical contributions to modern philosophical discourse that I've ever heard personally is Paulsego that showed us that, and he said that she described water once as the ultimate, what is it? Solvent. They're the universal solvent, I think is what she said. Like, water is the universal solvent. And with enough time and enough water, it all gets washed out to sea. From the detritus on the forest floor that gets swept away in a big rainstorm, to the tiny, invisible to the naked eye, specks of dust and limestone that roll off the Grand Canyon and collect at the bottom, or the mountains, or whatever. All ends up in the sea. I just prefer Eastern stuff to Christianity. Jesus is terrible. The idea of Jesus does us no good. Jesus is about accepting suffering and hoping you go to heaven. That makes for a weak populace. Well, I actually have the same criticisms of Eastern faiths as I do of Westerns when it comes to that one, or when it comes to that particular accusation. And I'm not saying this to try and shake your faith or convince you to do something different. Certainly the Eastern religions and philosophical frameworks may offer a unique perspective that you are unlikely to take overly seriously because of your cultural context and everything. So I'm not trying to dissuade you, but there are lots of things that, at least the way I read them in the Tao Te Ching, seem like they advocate for a slave morality. And there are lots of things in Buddhist teachings that seem like they would be right at home among any morality that is being taught to slaves. So the idea of simply giving up, your will, basically, or the idea of adaptability, meaning just surrender to whatever government forces are going on at the time, or whatever societal forces are going at the time. Just go with the flow, do what you can, do what you have to do, and it'll all work itself out in the end, because we're all one thing anyway. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it offers a whole lot of good solutions for coming to sound moral decisions. At least from how I've interacted with it, but who knows. I'm an atheist, I just don't see value in, for sure. We need unity, so I've dropped being an anti-theist, not gonna lie. Oh. We need unity. What does that mean? We need unity. See, the thing is, the religious people who are going to care about someone being anti-theist are probably going to care about someone being atheist. And the people who don't care about someone being anti-theist are the same ones who don't care about someone being atheist, usually. So that's why I feel pretty confident remaining anti-theist, because I don't think that it's safe for us to allow religion to become too deeply intermingled with our movement for social justice or our movement for economic justice. Because ultimately the church is ill-equipped to provide these things on a long, sustainable time frame. And it doesn't exist to do so either. And ultimately these churches exist to funnel money away from their parishioners towards the bourgeoisie at the very top that run them, the clergy. And I genuinely believe that any kind of post-capitalist society would probably, I don't know that it would have organized religion, man. I mean, it may be in some form. I don't think it would be outlawed, certainly. Are you talking to Christians outside of online spaces? Yeah, actually, I do talk to Christians outside of online spaces pretty often. I mean, the thing is, though, me and you, we're two leftists. We're talking about religion and everything. I'm going to use these terms. If I'm talking to a Christian in person, I'm probably not going to tell them I'm an anti-theist. I'm probably just going to, when they ask me about my thoughts on God or religion or whatever, I'll be like, well, I'm an atheist, but I don't mind what other people do, And if they ask me, like, to go to church or something like that, I might say, no, I don't, sorry, afraid I can't do that. And if they ask me why, I'll be like, I'm opposed to organized religion. I think people's faiths are totally fine. Whatever someone wants to believe in, and that's, that's cool. You got the right to choose your own moral compass here in America. But, I don't personally feel like it would behoove me to go to, and then I can get into some of my criticisms of organized religion, and at no point do I ever say the words anti-theist. And I might not even have to say the words atheist. I might just be like, I don't really know. I'm kind of on the fence about all that. I wasn't really raised religious and stuff, but here's why I've got a problem with this, if it goes that way. I'm genuinely curious. I will have a different experience living far away from the Bible Belt. I just call myself atheist in public. Well, yeah, so, here's the thing. Living in the Bible Belt
I do feel like I get to encounter quite a few Christians in my everyday life, and the thing is, people are a lot more defensive and defending of their religion when they're just like in their church or whatever. Like if they're in their church or in some kind of social group where that's part of the power dynamic or something, then maybe. But outside of that, a lot of Christians in the Bible Belt, from what I can tell, seem to kind of consider it like, I don't know if they consider it part of their duty for advocacy, or if it's some other like personal thing or what, but it does seem like a lot of Christians down here they don't necessarily stop talking to you just because you're like, oh, I'm an atheist. In a lot of cases, they want to convert you, or they want to show you the virtues of going to church and then make that convert you, or whatever. So they continue the conversation. And in the mind of a lot of like fundamentalist Bible Belt type Christians, the idea of winning someone like me over would be, oh, just a fantasy come true. So maybe that's why. Maybe in places where Christianity is less common and where people aren't as, where religiosity is less common and everything, maybe people are way more defensive of it. It wouldn't surprise me if they are. That's the thing. Me being an anti-theist and an atheist in a society, in a micro region of my society where it's incredibly uncommon, I'm just seen as like an oddity, not as a genuine threat to any of their faith. I'm seen as like an oddity or, a potential convert or something. Whereas if you came from, like if you were living in an area where Christianity is more under threat, then, like, not that I think that Christianity is actually under any threat, even in those instances, but you get what I'm saying. If you're in an area where Christians feel like they're more under threat, like there's less of them there, and way more atheists and people of other religions, then I feel like they're way more likely to take anti-theist to mean, well, I'm just fucking opposed to you and everything you could be and everything you are and all that. They're more likely to take it further than someone who is in a position of feeling like they're in charge, basically. I mostly run into progressive Christians and progressive Muslims and Hindus that don't know each other, etc., minus the Sikhs are an outlier. They stick with Sikhs mainly and Southern Baptists. There's certainly very religiously diverse communities all throughout America, even in the South. Let me see here. It's way easier to say, I don't believe what you believe, than saying you fundamentally don't comprehend the entire concept of what a God is. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair enough. That's the thing. In everyday conversation, I'm going to be different than I would be making content for you guys or making video essays. Or even if I was like in a debate setting or something like that. All of these situations might require different attitudes, different contexts require different strategies. Anyway, I think I'm gonna go ahead and go. Like, people don't understand what omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent even means. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and trying to inform someone on what those things are is really fucking difficult. Like, that's the thing. Deconverting someone and then helping them deconstruct their religion and their faith is a lot more difficult than just saying, agree to disagree, and trying to get along to go along, if you happen to agree enough on other areas to make it useful. But I still think that people need to push back really, really, really hardcore against any religious justification for legislation. Peace, y'all. I'll be back next week. I'm going camping. Nice, Dirty Dan. Well, it was good seeing you in here. It was good seeing all of you guys in the chat, from King Bugs to fucking Dirty Dan to Joey to everybody else. This was a really fun stream, really productive stream. Got to talk to Paul and everything else. So thank you guys so fucking much for showing up. Thank you all for your time, for your donations, for your memberships. And I will see you guys later. Peace.